Well, we're still bringing you those live visuals of the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II. And they are now passing Buckingham Palace after having left Westminster Abbey and past Wellington Arch on their way to Windsor. Sally, I think this is a very poignant moment.
It really is. You know, when you pointed that out, we were just watching the visuals, I got goosebumps because the Queen is synonymous with Buckingham Palace, and she will no longer be associated with it. And this is her final journey past a place where she spent so many years.
And you can tell from now that as they're passing Buckingham Palace that they moved from Westminster Abbey. They went to various parts, including the Wellington Arch, which has got a historic meaning in terms of past battles and the wars that were fought. And now they're passing Buckingham Palace. So the choice of the streets that they are using as they are marching with the coffin of Queen Elizabeth II passing this building. There's a meaning to that. There's a reason why it is happening. And King Charles is leading this with the service band, as we know they've been playing, and of course the Navy. And I think there's going to be a point where they had to stop.
That's right.
And they'll do the royal salute, and also maybe again sing the national anthem.
That's right. And, you know, so as you say, they've moved from Westminster Abbey. They're now moving around Buckingham Palace and the area around Hyde Park Corner, Wellington Arch, and then they will come to a stop, and then it will move to the royal hearse. And that will be a car journey that will take them to Windsor at some point. I mean, can you imagine just being there, Dan? The whole country has come to a standstill, but the whole of London, really.
It's under lockdown.
Yeah.
Security-wise, that place, you can't move unless you're following the service.
Oh.
Everything else has stopped. I mean, many visitors go to Buckingham tourists. I mean, I've visited Buckingham Palace. I'm sure you have as well.
Yes.
Many South Africans, when you go to London, it's one of those landmarks that you go and visit. When I was watching this whole week, it's 10 days now since you passed.
That's right. This is
and just watching the build-up by the British people, and today's ceremony that we're bringing live to our viewers, joining millions of other people in the world. I mean, many global news channels are showing this today. As I said, I believe the single biggest live news event of this year. The appreciation and the respect and celebration of their monarch, of their traditions and culture. There was even a live goat that was leading one of the processions recently. I mean, we in Africa, we use goats and sheep and animals as well in ceremonies and stuff like that. So we're not alone. I mean, there they are as well. So you see this and you say, wow, what richness. And then it made me think, Sally, about my own country. I mean, outside the Zulu kingdom, how many other kingdoms do you follow and celebrate? King Mrs. Zulu now had that traditional ceremony. A few weeks ago, not the redance, when he was taken into the crawl.
Oh, yes.
And there was a traditional coronation, if you will. We're still waiting for the official one, where the certificate will be signed off and given to him. That's coming shortly. But you look about it, this is, in my books, forget everything else. Forget colonialism, forget everything else. Just look at the pomp in the ceremony. Look at all of this kind of the country coming to a standstill in this fashion in 2022. You know, it's not like in 1800 or 1700. It's in 2022. We should learn from this as Africans and say, how do we, what's the word? I almost use a fancy word. How do we exalt? That's the fancy word. I'm sorry, Sally. How do we do that? How do we exalt our own kind of traditions and customs as Africa? Because we've got a richness of this in Africa.
If you think back to the funeral of King Goodwill's Welithini Kabeke Zulu, that was a huge affair. And for many South Africans who are not Zulu, it was an extraordinary moment of learning. And I found it absolutely amazing.
I learned a lot too. Yeah, we all learned, yes.
To celebrate the role and tradition of the monarchy. And there is a role to play. And I was just seeing so many people who, the thing that struck me a lot is people who said, I'm not a particular royalist, but I've been so touched by what's happened. And it says to me that as a people, we need to feel like we belong.
Yeah.
We all need to feel there's something to believe in and something to hope for. And I think that that speaks to the role that many royals, if they really do it as an act of service, it certainly is an important duty to fulfill in society.
Yeah.
As a leader, as any leader, if you take your job seriously, you're not in it for yourself. You're there to see how you can serve others. Yeah.
No, that's the key, serving, okay? Because we have challenges with traditional leadership in South Africa of all sorts. Some of them are so patriarchal that it's not funny, okay? When we're talking about women's emancipation and stuff. So I understand all of that, but I'm just talking about celebrating your identity, who you are, where you come from. Look at the English, how they're doing it today, in this past 10 days. That's what I'm trying to say. In South Africa, we can. You've mentioned the funeral of King Goodwill Zwelithini Ngabhekuzulu, okay, how we were all glued, and as Pamandla Goke was bringing us stuff from Kwakhangela Mankengane Royal Palace in KZN, and now we are also looking forward to the coronation. I'm saying, but as Africans, you'll find that in different parts. We've got these rich heritages. We need to do so. Just the other week, I interviewed Queen Moroka, Khabo Moroka from the Barolong, Bosileka in the Free State in Tabanchu. She's the first princess to ascend to the Khosi throne of those people. But she's so much involved in her community, serving.
Well, there we go.
That's the thing about service. And Queen Elizabeth II, for many people who've spoken about her, she's been serving.
Yeah, and servant leadership is what I think you can respect no matter your ideology. Let's bring in our correspondent in London once more, Sally Patterson. Sally, we are just trying to work out where we are. We don't know London as well as you. Are we correct that this procession is making its way to Wellington Arch and then the royal hearse will take the rest of the journey?
That's exactly right. As you say, it's rather confusing even for someone from London. It's going a very, very long route to get actually not very far in distance. But of course, the idea is for as many people as possible to see the royal procession, to see the hearse, to have that moment for themselves, to see what's been going on and to pay their respects to Her Majesty. Many people have been camped there overnight. People even started arriving earlier in the weekend from Saturday. So really, they want to have that moment where they can see the hearse, see this fantastic procession making its way from Westminster Abbey just behind me all the way to near Buckingham Palace. And as I say, that's not very far distance-wise, but it's going down these intricate routes. It's going along the road lined with people who are sort of 5, 6 deep, all desperate to get that glimpse of the Queen. And if you look at the footage coming out of there, you can see people very quietly watching, very patiently, many of them with their heads bowed, many of them were listening to the funeral as it was playing just about half an hour ago, and many of them had tears in their eyes, and really you could see that they were mourning because for many of them this was a queen who played a major part in their life. Of course, she was the only monarch many of them had ever known, and she was a huge figure of strength, of continuity, and many of them just wanted to have this moment today to say that final goodbye. As you say, she's being led to Wellington Arch, where she will be picked up by the hearse, which will then drive her very slowly to Windsor Castle, which is for her, in a way, returning home. And later on today, she will be buried there in a much smaller private ceremony.
And we are watching this beautiful procession, really, but it has been underpinned by incredibly well-timed logistics, but also security. Ollie in Windsor was telling us a little earlier that it is quite visible, the role of security, that the presence is there, discreet but very much there. Is it the same where you are, Sally?
Certainly. We've seen over the last few days there's been a huge increase in security presence here in central London. Of course, this is a major capital city. There's always police presence. You always feel rather, watched because you are in the centre of a very busy city. But we've really seen a major surge in the last few days. We've seen around 10,000 police officers being brought to London from forces around the UK. So we've got Welsh police here, we've got police from the south of England, from the north, all brought here to be controlled by London's police force, the Metropolitan Police, and they're here to basically help them, support them, whether that's just pointing out to where tourists should be going, or whether it's, keeping an eye on what's going on and making sure everyone's safe. We've also got around 10,000 military personnel positioned in London this week and weekend, and they too are helping support that security effort, making sure that everyone is safe. And of course, you can see a large amount of military personnel in that parade as well, all marching with perfect precision. This is something that has been practiced and perfected. People, the soldiers who are marching were up overnight practicing for this to make sure that it was just right, to make sure that every step was perfectly in time. Now, the other thing to mention is that there are also security officers here from private firms who have also been brought on board to help, and they're helping, make sure people know where they're going. They're wearing bright yellow and orange high-vis jackets as well. So there's all sorts of security to make sure, because let's not forget that this is one of the most high-profile events in this country's history, and we've got not just huge amounts of members of public here, some estimates are saying over 1 million, but we've also got dignitaries from around the world. We've got world leaders. We've got the President of the United States, Joe Biden. We've got kings. We've got queens. We've got really some of the most important people in the world right here in central London. So it's no surprise that their security is absolutely paramount.
Absolutely, and thank you very much for just giving us a flavour of what's happening where you are. Sally Patterson in London.
Yeah, that's the Wellington Arch. That's where now the procession has reached. Let's bring